With due respect, this is a Fiamma awning. It is 16 foot long. I guess it's the 45iL for 40 centimeter or for 450 centimeter. I just happen to notice that this knuckle, or whatever you want to call it, this slide, the pictorial or the picture that's online shows this part, I believe, rotated counterclockwise, so that this part right here is up inside here. I'm not sure because this is moving out, and what's happening is that this side isn't as bad as the other side, but this part of this casing is bending out because when the awning extends and there's no weight on it before you put the supports out from the motorhome, the weight bearing down on the awning on top of this is buckling this corner. Like I said, the other side is far worse than this. I actually hammered it back in place, and just once or twice it has actually dropped it down. I'll show it here in a second. I can see it up there where the outer casing, I don't know if you can tell or not, because I've got various ladders. But that nylon part is also slipping out. I'm not sure if that's natural or not, if it's supposed to twist out of that block. Because what it's doing is it's causing this whole arm to drop out of that socket, that joint. And maybe that's part of my problem because I'm not able to get this up. This awning does not lift up when it's drawn back in. And to clear these guide blocks right there, where this part of the lead rail slides up over it, what happens is it's actually down below the top of this, so it catches on this lip under the underside, and it's got to be lifted up over that in order to get it back into place. These, I believe, from the casting, they are preset. They're locked in place. There's no adjustment there. The only thing I see adjustment on is this slotted nylon part here, and the only other thing is whether or not these arms, could swear that when I took this apart, this arm, the extended arm, has the Fiamma label on it. That it was on this side of the motorhome, leading towards the nose of the motorhome. But what that does is it puts sag or twist in this arm as it extends out. It drops down, or as you bring it back in, they collapse because they're spring loaded. And I'm just wondering if they're supposed to be on the other side. I do not know. Anyway, this is what the problem I'm running into. I ended up taking apart the control arm from this block, this nylon insert. It's not like the extrusion shown on a current PDF or picture for the parts breakdown for the Fiamma awning. In this case, a F45iL450 series. I think it's a 400 something millimeter or centimeter long awning. But anyway, this part was 180 degrees out. It had popped out of this. The new cast part shows more of an extrusion end, sort of like what's on the end of the outer casing, where, or like maybe where the bead for the fabric goes into. This is more of a triangular piece, but it was 180 degrees out. I took this down and put it on my bench and made sure that it would insert back in place and put the block back into place, straighten out the two studs, bolts, or whatever that you want to call them, that out of the control arm, because they were bent. One was bent inwards quite a bit from the twist of the weight of the awning and that bearing down on these. So I had to straighten those. So you got to be very careful because it's an aluminum casting. This arm itself, I'm not sure what all is included, but this is $240 from Fiamma, the spring-loaded part. I'm hoping that this fix on the other side will come up with a fix for why my awning would not retract back into the casing and climb up over these guides, if you will, right here and there, the bottom edge of the rail, this little plastic extrusion here, the bottom edge is supposed to glide up on top of that extrusion. And they weren't. They were falling short of it. They kept jamming up there. You'd have to get up there with a pole. So this is probably the problem that others have had when they said that they're using their pole, the extension pole, to put the awning back into the casing, the rail into the casing, is because those nylon bushings over there and there are either popped out of the socket, need to be replaced because it is nylon and it will break down under weight. But I'm hoping that, like I said, that this will be my fix. Stay tuned for the other side. I've now got the left-hand side facing the rear of the motorhome. The upper nylon bushing into the aluminum extruded block for the for holding the Fiamma upper part of the arm in place. I'm going to try to show on this other one on the right-hand side because I haven't repaired it yet. If there's not too much glare, what's happening here is that this nylon block, you'll see, is rotated out of the extrusion. This should be the side with a flange port. I'm going to take it apart and put it back in again and see what exactly had happened here. But this is rotated out of this block and it shouldn't be like that. So now that I got the left side done, I'm going to go on to repairing this one. Before I take the front or the right side of the awning bracketry apart, I want to point out what had happened is that because of this nylon block rotating or popping out of this aluminum casting right here, you can see what's happened, that this part of the arm bore down on the extrusion. I can straighten that with the vice grips and all that, that's not a problem. But I don't have a tripod to hold this. And I'm working alone, so one thing, this is under tension, so it's nice if you have an extra hand. But what I'm going to be doing is rotating this block around. If you see this right now, and you'll see what results when I put it back in correctly. But this arm, when it's in the up position, should rotate sort of almost vertical, maybe a couple degrees off of vertical. And as it was not. It was probably 15 degrees or 20 degrees, so that's why I bored on here. On to making the fix. What I'll end up doing is taking these two nuts off. They're castle nuts or lock nuts, what do you want to call them? A nylock. But I'm going to end up taking this aluminum block off also because I want to reinsert the nylon bushing into here. So by taking these two nuts off, you can pull this entire housing out. I've got it supported by a board up in here. You can slide it out, take it to your bench and straighten it. I had to on the other one. I had to straighten the two bolts, the studs hanging off of this casting. You got to be very careful. But they were both bent because of the twist. And more than likely it's going to happen with this also. These two screws, when you take this apart, it's a number 4 metric Allen wrench to take those off. And these are 1/2-inch nuts. When I unbolted the arm, this just popped right out. It was just hanging loose in there. It's actually supposed to slide in from this side in. You see this these tabs or these ears, if you will. That is on the forward side of this aluminum extrusion. And so it was just hanging there. It was actually upside down. It was something like that or whatever, upside down. But in addition, before I put this back together, I'm going to be straightening this out also, part of this rail. But the next is I'm going to take this block off, take it to the bench, and I'm going to put it in there instead of trying to beat it in up here. Not sure if you could tell. Well, obviously you can tell. This is the control arm removed, and you can see the twist that developed in the studs that hang off from the casting. So being very careful, these are stainless steel bolts, I believe. You should be able to put them back into place, vice grips or whatever. Fortunately, I had something left over, like a steel piece of pipe with a small ID. I could slide over the end of this, sort of like the pipe that you'd have on a little 1-ton jack or something. But you should be able to pull on it, twist it back into place. The other is, as long as I'm going to show it on this block, this is the extrusion. You can see the profile of this is different than the picture that's online. But this is the part that goes in there with these ears, if you will, this flange, the top portion here, is supposed to slide down into this this tapered insert, groove, whatever, extrusion, part of the extrusion. This, it is ripped a little bit on one side. The balance of it looks okay. Since this had more of the stress put on it, I'm not sure if the replacement ones that are still available through Fiamma are going to be the same thing, but I'm going to take some pictures and send this on. Hopefully a replacement part, if this is the fix, that I'd be able to get that and in the future have a spare part. Might also add that, which I didn't say ahead of time before taking the block off, if you feel a little squeamish and you're not taking dimensions, so the tape or anything, use a felt tip marker and mark the position of your blocks before you take them out. That way it'll, if it was working before you took it apart, it'll make your life a lot easier. Also, on this block in particular, it does have 2 nylon inserts, or actually not nylon, but some sort of a PVC insert. Make sure you don't lose those. The process of putting this back together again, I do realize this is made of nylon. It's got a pretty decent slot in here, and I'm old school, even though there was part of the casting goes over that, in essence similar to a washer. Because of this insert that goes inside here in the thickness, there was actually a gap between this and that. Instead of tightening down on it, I decided to put on the other side already, I've decided to put an extra washer in here behind this before putting it back together again. Just makes sense, and when it draws up, it'll just cover a little bit more of the area of this nylon block. It would be a recommendation. It's not shown in the parts list, but there's plenty of room for it. I see no reason to put one in there. The spring, it's got an ear on it, if you want to call it that, or bent over edge. Make sure it's on this side of this aluminum extrusion. You'll figure it out once you get it in there, but it's just a little bit easier if it's in the right spot so that the studs slide into the housing. Installed. Anyway, when this is in, when it's in there correctly, of course I straightened this this lip off where this part of the casting had bent down on it from weight. But when this is in here correctly, as you can see now, this bar is almost in a vertical position. You can't tell from this angle. Before it was angled out about 15 degrees, that bore down pressure on here. I'm pretty happy with this result. I'm hoping that this is going to be my fix. I'll see. And again, remember when you bring down the control arm, this is under a lot of tension. There's this spring on there, got a wire wrapped around it. But when you're in the down position, at the last minute, don't forget, and it'll snap away from you. Well, as we don't live in a perfect world, I certainly don't. What I had done initially to replace the awning, I also replaced the right end cap, the wind mechanism, the left cap, and then the 2 outer caps, this one and the opposite side. I dry fitted them, of course, but not that one. I didn't realize that the mechanism would hit, so I had to file it out a little bit. So hindsight being what it is, I should have done that before I painted them. But I've now got the arms assembled both sides, put this back into the positions where I think they were, and so I'm gonna have to put the camera down, but I'm gonna try this and see what my results do. If it goes up, I'm gonna be happy, and it locks into place like it's supposed to. I will see in a moment. This is probably 15 minutes after I got done doing the final assembly, if you will, of the control arms, replacing putting back into place the nylon inserts that I'm not sure how they got out, over twisting, straightening the underside of the casing where the control arm went up inside. But you can see as I walk up here now, the issue that I had was that this outside rail, what they call, this is the outside rail for the Fiamma awning, would not tighten up or go flush against this upper casing. So as you look down through here now, you can see that this is now snug against there for waterproofing. I am very tickled that the fix I came up with, saving myself almost $600 for the 2 control arms. They weren't damaged, fortunately. The nylon inserts they are available at $9 a piece, plus shipping from Fiamma in Orlando if you're in the United States. So talked to Marcos in tech support to begin with, and call them back when I recognized what was going on with my upper arms, and so I went back to work, and with a 1/2-inch deep well socket, a 1/4-inch nut drive, a 4mm Allen wrench, a couple step ladders, and working by myself, I was able to make this repair. So I'm really happy. The awning is now in place that I started actually in 2019, but picked up the awning in June of this year when it was done. Awning material, didn't get around to putting it in, but now on my 2006 Isata, Dynamax Isata, I've now got an awning, and a workable awning as it is. So thank you.